Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. God bless you. Happy Christmas Eve. This year has flown by, but this is the day the Lord has made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. It's good to be with you on this 25th day of our challenge, your Next Move Now 30-day challenge. We're pressing our way forward. We are approaching the finish line of this challenge that's designed to help us get ready for the next move of God in our life that will help us prepare for 2026, which is going to be a defining year. We've been moving right through this acronym for the word move. Mindset was week one, order was week two, vision was week three. And this week we're talking about order. These are the different principles that allow us to respond to what God's doing in our lives to bring about our next move. If you've missed any of that, you can go back and catch any of it on YouTube, and I'll give you that information a little bit later. But we're talking about execution, all right? It's actually getting the thing done. And for our purposes, even though the general definition of execution, especially in business, is the discipline of getting things done, for our purposes, we're going to say that the definition of execution is being responsive to the voice and the move of God with action, not just with a, um, okay, God, I see what you're doing, but no, okay, God, I see what you're doing, and now I know what I should be doing. And so Monday, we started this off by talking about diagnosing really the culture of your life, because you can't begin to do things until you know the way in which you do things. Because the way you do things, the way you do the things you do, will either undergird or undermine what it is that you desire to do. So we took some time to think about what is the culture of my life, right? What are the habits, the practices, the postures, the patterns that are already active in my life? And then yesterday we talked about lag measures versus lead measures. That scripture that says, watch the path of your feet, that our eyes actually need to be not focused on the outcomes, but focused on the inputs. And that's the difference between a lag measure and a lead measure. We need to be focused on the lead measures. Today, I want to talk to you about do what God is doing. Because, I've talked to some people in this challenge, and one of the things that they said is, all right, hey, Pastor Shaun, I love this series. Thank you so much for the series. But now we talking about execution. I need to figure out what I'm supposed to be doing. I got a real simple answer for you. Do what God is doing. Do what God is doing. What should I be doing? Do what God is doing. Let's make sense out of that. John 5 and 19. In John chapter 5, what happens is that Jesus performs a healing on the Sabbath. He restores the man by the pool of Bethesda. Remember, the man is waiting to get in the pool for the angel to trouble the water. And what the man doesn't know is that living water has walked up on him. And so living water says, man, you don't need that water. Do you want to be healed? And the man is healed. But this all happens on the Sabbath. And so the religious leaders are offended, not because necessarily of the healing or that the healing was wrong, but because it disrupted the way that they interpreted the law and the categories that were allowable for working on the Sabbath. So set aside the fact that Jesus just did this miraculous thing. They're arguing and fussing because you're not supposed to do work like that on the Sabbath, which is amazing, because religious people tend to be focused on the work that they're doing and not the work that God is doing. Part of the problem with people who are religious, and I mean it in the pejorative sense, because religious or religion is not exclusively a negative word. Okay. The basic meaning of the word religion is simply an order and a structure for faith. There's nothing wrong with having the old saints. Matter of fact, they used to say, have you got good religion? Good religion is when we order and structure our faith in such a way that we do the things that honor God. But bad religion is when our faith is distorted in such a way that we're working but we're not working with an attachment or a connection or a communion to the work of the God. And the religious leaders were working, and they had a theory and a theology of work, but that theology of work was not informed by what God was doing. And so Jesus defends his actions by saying, look, I'm not acting of my own accord. I'm not being impulsive. I'm not violating the Father's will. I'm doing what I see God doing, because I've learned that when I do what I see God doing, I get to do those things. It's the language he's using is that of an apprentice. The father shows his son, hey, son, listen, I want to show you something. And then you get to see that. And then you join the father in the work. So, what I want you to understand today is that if you want to be effective, you want to work where God is working in your life. We're not trying to be somewhere else. We want to be where God is. That's the safest place to be. And so our execution will be fruitful if we can work where God is working. When we ground our action in what we see God doing. Okay. And this is what I want to talk to you about, because there are three things we need to do in order to work where God is working. Number one, we need to be able to perceive. We need to be able to see where God is working. We need to have an awareness. Jesus essentially says, um, I am not operating of my own accord. His activity flowed out of his alignment with the work of the Father. Okay. His execution was not self contained or self generated. It wasn't about his own agenda. He wasn't about an agenda. He was seeking to be aligned. And so, in order to be aligned, you have to be aware. And so Jesus is watchful of the Father. He's paying attention to what he sees God doing, which means that he has a posture of knowing the Father's heart. It means that he has a posture of communion with God so that he can see and sense. And guess what? You don't have to be Jesus to have that. You have access to the Father. You can perceive what God is doing. You can pray into an awareness of where God is working in your life. Where is God working in my life? God, help me to see where you're working. Help me to see what you're doing. Help me to see what it is that you're trying to touch, what it is that you're trying to heal, what it is that you're trying to change and shift. We have to perceive. Then we have to prioritize. Because once you're aware of where God is working, that's where you direct your focus. Jesus is able to heal on the Sabbath, even though they weren't accustomed to it, because he was setting his priorities based upon God's priorities. He didn't respond to every demand, but he did do what he saw the Father doing. And whatever you see the Father doing, listen to me, whatever you see and sense God doing, that thing is what's important now. You prioritize that, you place your focus on that. And then finally, you participate. You participate, because now that I see where God is doing, and now that I know that that's what matters, that's what's important, I want to join God in his work. It is not about having control over the work. Okay. You're not inviting God to work on an area of your life with you. The most fruitful and faithful thing you can do is, when you know where God is at work in your life, is to say, God, show me what I need to do to join you there. So, where are you working? Are you working in my health? If you're working in my health, then let me prioritize my health over my job. Okay. Because that means that you're going to do something, and it's important that I see where you are working. So I'm going to stop demanding that you fire my boss so I can get his position. And I'm going to pay attention to where you're working in my life, because evidently you want me to get my blood pressure down. Do you see what I'm saying? So I participate in what God has prioritized. And I can do that because I perceive where the Lord is working. So work where God is working. Let your prayer today be, God, let me be able to perceive where you're working so that I can prioritize what you're doing and participate in that work. All right. See y'all back here tomorrow, same time, 7 a.m. I know it's Christmas, I will be on. I won't be on for a long time, but I want to encourage you. I got a special word for you tomorrow that's going to encourage you as we continue wrapping this up. If you miss it, you can catch it on the replay. That's all good. But I hope you have a great evening. Merry Christmas to you. Take care. Bye-bye.